everyone, it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to actually the first wrap-up of this year, which I'm very excited about because I haven't done any wrap-up this year. And first I was thinking a little bit how to go about this video actually, because obviously I did read a couple more books throughout the year, but then I thought that now I will just do my October wrap-up, so the books which I read in the month of October, and then in some other video I will speak about all the other books which I read throughout the year. Somehow. I don't know how yet, but I'll do it. And the first book actually, okay, let me put my tea down. The first book which I will be talking to you about is the one I finished just recently, like a couple days ago, so I think my order will be from the books I finished as the last one. And this would be Gentleman in Moscow, this one. And I had very interesting experience with this book because I really wanted to read this. I didn't know much about the book. As I mentioned in my book haul video when I purchased this, but I knew that it had very good reviews and apparently should be very good one, and I kind of felt like I do want to read book like this with the very limited idea about what is the book about, which I had. And so I bought the book and then I started to read it, and from the very beginning I absolutely loved the writing style and the way how sentences were constructed, because it was absolutely beautiful writing. But I must say that when I got in probably into the middle of the book, I started to feel like there is not so much happening, and I really had troubles to pick the book up and continue reading it. Like every time I did, I really enjoyed it, but I kind of had to force myself, you know, to pick up the book. And then I posted this on my Instagram and I got very supportive comment from Margaret Pignard, thank you, who said that, oh, there is a lot happening. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna push and I'm gonna keep reading, and I'm so happy I did, because after the middle of the book, I would say it's when I got really back on the track with the story, and I absolutely fell in love with this. And if you don't know what this is about, so basically Gentleman in Moscow, the Count Rostov, who is the main character, he was in prison sort of, or sentenced to remain in a hotel in Russia for the rest of his life because of the poetry he wrote. This book goes for over 30 decades, and we see him meeting different characters or different people at the hotel and how they affect his life and how he's navigating through basically being sentenced to live in a hotel and what he is doing there and how he is handling all of this. And I must say it's absolutely wonderful, and what this book I would say focuses most of is how some people can enter your life very unexpectedly, and at some point it's just changed the course of your life completely. And as you can see, like I have many you know, like sticky notes, and I underlined so many quotes, and I feel like this book is definitely the one which I really enjoyed, I really loved it, but then I feel like this is a book which I definitely do want to read again, and I have a feeling that I will be able to enjoy it even more when I'll be reading it for a second time. You know, like sometimes there are books which you definitely know you want to read again soon, but you are like, well, yeah, I love this and nothing will top it. But I feel like the more you read this, the more things you will find there which will make you enjoy it even more. The second book I would like to show you is this one, If We Were Villains. And if you saw my previous video, I mentioned in that one that this is the case for me, which I was thinking to read this book for a very long time, but every time I went to a bookshop I decided to pick a different book instead, until now. And I'm very happy I did, because I get a feeling when I was reading reviews very quickly about other people who read this book, I think that this is the kind of book people either love or hate, and I definitely belong to people who are more to the love side of this book. And basically the story is about a group of students who also live together in this prominent college where they study acting, and it's mostly focusing on like Shakespearean plays. And it's very interesting because at the very beginning we meet our main character, who is just out of the prison after 10 years he spent there for the murder he may or may not commit, and we are basically trying to find out what really happened. And I must say that it's been a while since I've been so immersed and captivated by a book, and I think it's especially because of the, I don't like using the word vibe, but I would say yes, like the whole atmosphere. It gives you sort of like a dark academia, and I got immersed in this very quickly, and I just really wanted to read it. And I would say it's one of the books which kind of got me out of the, not necessarily a reading slump anymore, but it really encouraged me to read more and more, and also get into my era of buying more books and reading more books, which is great. But yeah, and I would say that every single character from the main ones, there were 7 of them, so they're very different. Sometimes they're a little bit too stereotypical for my taste, but I still didn't mind because of the way how the book was written. But then little trigger warnings, because it speaks a lot about even some like mental health issues and, for example, drug, alcoholism, and then obviously there is a death and murder involved, so it might be a little bit difficult read maybe, but just keep that in mind. But other than that, I really loved it, and also for the reason that I do love Shakespeare myself. And what I appreciated about this book, I know some people pointed out it was a little bit too much. I didn't mind at all, but basically these actors, since they were studying, because they were studying you know, all the plays by Shakespeare, they were all the time quoting Shakespeare in their daily life, which I found very interesting. But also there is a little bit note, if you like Shakespeare but you haven't maybe read or saw all the, you know, like plays and movies, and you don't really know all the endings of the plays, this might give you a little bit of spoilers for some of the plays, so that's something to keep in mind. But other than that, for me, I really love this book. So yeah, please let me know if you read it and whether you belong to the people who loved it or hated it, or if you're somewhat in between, because that's interesting too. Okay, I'm filming very early in the morning and sun just popped out and I'm completely yellow. Wait. Right, that's better, please focus. Okay, my friends, so the book number 3 is the Bookshop Women, and I must say I was really captivated by the cover at first, but then also immediately as I turned the book and I read what is the book about, I kind of wanted to read this immediately, because I first thought this is a fictional book, but it's actually non-fiction, because Nanako Hanada, who is the author of the book, is also the main character of this book, and she is describing her life some time ago, when basically she was going through a divorce and she struggled to even find a place where to live, and she decided to join dating app, but mostly for the reason to like meet people, not necessarily immediately like date someone, because she was still going through a divorce very not freshly was the word, like she just was going through like separation and divorce. But what actually ended up doing is that everyone she met, she was recommending a book to, because she herself was working as a manager in a bookstore. So obviously you have books involved here, and you have someone who is recommending books to other people. So immediately I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this. And I would say it's a thin book, so you can read it, I don't know, like day or two. And I did really enjoy it. It may be not 5 out of 5 for me, for the reason that, for example, this really, what I like about this book, okay, so it really kind of dived in very early on, so right on the page 2 or 3 she's meeting someone, so you don't really have long description and waiting until you get to the story and into the book. However, on the other hand, I felt like I would appreciate a little bit more of the other aspect of her life, meaning that in this book it was really mostly about how she met people and describing different, obviously, like dialogues with them and what they were talking about and all of these different dates and how that made her feel like going on this dating site. But I felt like there was too little for me from her thoughts and how she felt about the divorce itself, and that was kind of missing, because I felt like it felt a little bit unreal because of this for me, you know what I mean? So you're going through something like this, which is very, you know, like difficult and heartbreaking, and yet you are only talking about dating sites or like some part of your life, which might be a way of maybe coping mechanism, or maybe she wasn't really wanted to talk about it as much. But for me it kind of took a little bit of the realness out, because I'm like, well, but you cannot just describe a whole divorce in like 2 scenes where she meets her husband and they're talking about it a little bit and that's it. You know what I mean? But other than that, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, cover is amazing. What I really liked about this as well is at the end of the book, you have a list of every single book the author recommended to the strangers, and you have also a little bit description of what is the book about, which is great. But because this is set in Japan, which is another thing I really enjoy about the book, by the way, I had really trouble to find these books here in Slovakia, at least. So I think that would be the case of needing to be placed somewhere else in order to be able to find and order and read those books, because some of them are not even translated to English, as I found out. So yes, my friends, highly recommend this. I think many people would really like this book, and I really did enjoy it. It was just some little bits and pieces which I felt like were missing there, and I think this is all I wanted to say, because I have little notes here which I wrote when I was reading the book. So yeah, this is the book number 3. Okay, it's not very helpful, cause okay, that's fine. I'm very grateful for sun in November. I am, so I'm just gonna keep it like this and hope it's not gonna show everything bad which is on my face. Anywho, I have 2 more books which I would like to show you, but this is not part of the wrap-up, but it's actually my teeny tiny book haul, because I purchased 2 more books last weekend, because I went to this absolutely lovely trip to Vienna, and we visited a bookshop, and I didn't really have a book in mind which I wanted to buy there, but I found 2 books which I decided to buy, and I just thought I will show you, because I was considering whether to keep this for my book haul video, but because recently my wallet has been crying very much because of the book buying, I decided to include it here and have a little break from buying books. Hopefully. So the first book I got is this one, which is called The Ghost Cat, and first it really captured me because of the cover, and trust me, like, okay, nothing against cats, right? But I am really not a cat person. I really am not. But I saw this cover and I was like, okay, this sounds very lovely. And then I look on the other side and it basically said 12 decades, 9 lives, 1 cat. And it describes the story here, which says that there is this cat who was living in Edinburgh in 1902 and went with the night lives on. So basically meeting different people and different decades. And I really got a vibe from this as something like Forrest Gump, you know, when you have this sort of like main character of the story, but who is actually really insignificant in a way. However, that character was there when like the most important things in the history of the world happened and meant most important people. For example, here already, because I think like 60 pages in, and Kat already met the author of Peter Pan, for example. And stuff like this, and I really like it so far, so I'm very curious to finish this and then let you know what I think of it. And then the second book which I bought is this one, with absolutely wonderful, stunning cover, and it's A Month of Sundays by Courtney Peppernell. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that Courtney Peppernell is an author of a poetry who I love absolutely the most in the world, and I have most of her books and I love them, and I always am a huge advocate of how people should read it, because it's one of the most beautiful poetry collection about love. Although I know that some of you read it and you said it was too sweet, no judgment. I mean, I love it. So this was the case again of me seeing the book there, not really even looking what's that about or like what is the poetry about. I was like, okay, you're coming with me, you know? So these are the 2 books I purchased, and I'm very happy with that, and yeah, I cannot wait to read them. So please, my friends, I really hope you enjoyed this sunny video and I hope it kept me focused on the camera. We'll see about that, but I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know which book was your favorite in October, and yeah, I hopefully will see you soon again. Bye bye.